Welcome to Wadsworth History on Film, a program presented by the Wadsworth Area Historical Society and designed to record the oral history of Wadsworth for posterity. We're doing a special type of program today for posterity, and that is that we are doing this for the people in the year 2064 when they celebrate the 250th anniversary of the founding of Wadsworth. I'm Caesar Carino, your host, and today we have two very special guests who did a lot of work for the 200th anniversary. Matter of fact, they had probably the biggest crowd of all the events we had. But this is Dennis and Judy Roth, R-O-T-H, Dennis and Judy Roth, who were in charge of the community picnic that lasted 3 solid days, and they were there all that time. So Dennis and Judy, Dennis and Judy, welcome to our program today. And we're going to start with Judy and have Judy tell us a little bit about herself, where you were born, who you are, and when you came to Wadsworth, and all of those kinds of things, how many kids you have, and all of that.
Okay. Well, I was originally born in Barberton, and then I relocated to Wadsworth.
You're born in Barberton.
I was born in Barberton.
You do know that Barberton and Wadsworth are tremendously
rivalries. And I also graduated from Norton in 1972, so that was a very big rivalry between Norton and Wadsworth. But I ended up locating here, and I am married to Dennis, and we have 3 children. We have Frank, Chandra, and Mike, and we have 2 wonderful little grandbabies.
And their names are?
Logan is 4, and Ashlyn is 1 year old.
And whose are they?
They are Chandra's, and my son-in-law, Pat.
Pat what?
DeVoe.
DeVoe.
Yes.
Okay. And they live in Wadsworth?
They do. They live on in the township. Mm-hmm. So yes, and our youngest son lives in town, and our other son lives in town also.
And what do you do when you're not playing with picnics?
I really take care of my grandchildren a lot.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes, and then I do help Dennis at the business.
And what kind of business is that?
We own Roth Auto Service.
Roth Auto Service. Mm-hmm. And what does Roth Auto Service do with cars?
We do all mechanical work.
And where is it located?
It's at 350 Water Street here in town. And we do all body work also.
You do a lot of stuff.
Used car sales.
Used car sales.
And new car sales. Mm-hmm. You got all of that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Now let's go to Dennis. Where were you born, and who are you, and so forth and so on?
Well, I was born in Akron, Ohio.
Akron. Well, that's perfect. We don't have any rivalry with Akron.
And I graduated in '73 from Hoban High School.
From Hoban High School.
Yeah. So, and I've got about a year of college, and then we basically went into auto mechanics. So from there, so.
How long have you been? How long you've had your Roth Auto here in Wadsworth?
Well, we've been in business for about 35 years.
35 years.
Yeah, we started in 1979. So. And
my brother Henry had Carino Ignition.
Right, I knew Henry very well. So yeah,
for many years.
He helped me out a lot when I first started in business.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, he did. So he was a nice guy.
Been gone, unfortunately, but
yeah,
he must have left his mark, because a lot of people say that he was a very fine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
he'd help anybody. Yeah.
Pardon me?
He'd help anybody. And
yeah, he taught mechanics for many years.
Oh yeah.
At various places. Now, as we indicated at the very beginning, what we're trying to do is to give people in the year 2064 an opportunity to know what we did, so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel. So what we hope we can do is to have this tape that we're doing today, and all of the other ones. There will be 22 tapes altogether, 22 programs of all of the things that we did for the 200th anniversary. And we're hoping that we'll be able to convince someone to go to the library in 2061, or 2061, and to take all of these tapes out and look at them. And not only will they be able to know what they're going to do, what we did, so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel, as I mentioned earlier, but also so that they can have that part of history which probably might be gone by then. For instance, we had one not too terribly long ago on all the houses of the old houses of Wadsworth. Many of those old houses are already gone, and by the time 2064 comes, they might all be gone. So, what we want to do. The other thing we do on this program is to make sure that, since so many things will be different 50 years from now, we identify things by starting at the square. For instance, if we're talking about the Methodist Church, which is 1 block away from the square, we say, starting at the square, it's approximately 2 blocks from the center of the square on the south side of the road, because if the church isn't there anymore, to give you an example, not one of the schools that was here for the 250th, rather for the 150th anniversary, is still standing.
That's true.
Right.
That is
Not
true.
one.
Not one.
Now, I'll take that back, because the what we used to call the high school, which then became the junior high school, which is now the Central Intermediate School, is still standing, but they have completely re-gutted it, and they completely gutted it and redid the whole inside. So none of those schools. So we have to identify that way. So if I stop you in the middle of the sentence and say, now where is that located? Tell us about how you got involved, first and foremost, in the picnic. I know that you didn't say, oh, there's going to be a picnic. I'm ready to go out there and work for 3 days without eating or going to the bathroom or anything else. What did you do?
That is really true. We showed up to a volunteer meeting right in the beginning, and we actually thought we were going to be representing Dennis, the Boy Scouts, and myself as a Girl Scout aspect of it, to maybe get them involved and maybe volunteer sometimes at some of these events.
You volunteered a lot of time.
Yes, yes. And I don't really know how it all came about, but somehow our names ended up as a chairperson. And we both kind of laughed about that, and we're thinking, well, really, did we really volunteer for that? But that's kind of how it came about.
Well, who contacted you?
I think, was it Pam Douglas?
Probably.
I think it might have been
yeah.
Pam that contacted us. And
She was in charge of all of the events.
right.
So she probably contacted you. Now, people in 2064, let me say that human nature is always and everywhere the same. 1,000 years ago, people volunteered because someone volunteered for them. 200 years ago, people volunteered because someone volunteered for them. When we celebrated our 200th anniversary in 2014, the same thing happened, and you can be assured that when you people in 2064 put your committees together, someone is going to volunteer you. So just do it, right?
Right.
Basically, yes.
What did you have to do? I mean, how do you have a picnic for 10,000 people?
Well, firstly, we picked a spot. And
Okay, you picked a spot. What did you pick?
Memorial Park, which is
And we hope Memorial Park will still be here, but tell us where Memorial Park was, or is.
Memorial Park is off of Grandview Avenue, between Grandview and Alt Street, and it's the largest park in Wadsworth. So, and it's got a pond, and it's a very beautiful park. So.
I can attest to the fact that it's the largest one in Wadsworth, because I was there for the 3 days with my uniform on as General Elijah Wadsworth, and I had to walk from one end of the park all the way to the other end, to greet people and to put on the good face and so forth. And I did that 3 times every single day, and that's a long way. I bet it's a good mile.
Yeah.
I bet it's a good mile from one end to the other.
But
It's a long way.
Distance.
yeah.
Now, you picked the park. Then what did you do? Did you have to ask someone's permission to use the park? Because the park is not something that you just go in there and.
Right.
And
Right.
How did you get permission to use the park?
Oh, we just talked to the city, Harry Stark, who's the city
service director.
Service
at the time.
director, yeah.
Harry Stark, S-T-A-R-K.
Yes.
Yeah.
We also would like to have everyone's name spelled, because
Okay.
everyone spells names differently. So
Right.
S-T-A-R-K. He was the assistant service director. What did he do, and what did you do?
Well, we just told him what we were going to do, and just to let him know, and he was fine with everything, just so he was kept abreast of what was going on.
So you got permission to use the entire park, which is extraordinary. I don't
Right.
think anyone has ever done that before. Because you used every inch of the park, didn't you?
We
Right.
did.
Every
Oh,
inch
we
of the
did,
park,
yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Then,
There were permits too that had to be filed.
Yeah.
Okay, now what kinds of permits did you
Like
have to
special activity permits, we had to file those.
What are special activity permits?
Those special permits, activity permits, are anytime that you want to do an event in the parks, or say like at Kaleidoscope, which I guess is one of our parks.
Surely.
Yeah.
You just file the proper paperwork and let the city know what you're doing and how long the event's going to be, and if there's special needs, like if you need anything from the like the police department for security, or if you needed cones dropped to block off roads or block off areas, those types of things.
Okay, electricity or
Yes.
anything of this
Electricity,
nature.
water,
So,
yeah.
so all of your permissions, all of your permits were through the city. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
Okay, good. Then the following day, you just had a picnic.
No.
No. No.
Let's hear how that happened. What did you have to do? I mean, these are the details which I think will be extremely important in
Yeah.
2064.
Well, we asked for volunteers to be on our committee, and we had, what, 5, I think?
5 volunteers.
I think
yeah.
5 volunteers.
Who were some of the volunteers?
Linda Parmalee.
Linda Parmalee. And what did Linda do?
All the volunteers, we all worked very closely together, and she did a lot at the picnic with the children, doing crafts and that kind of thing.
She
So
did
she
a beautiful
researched
job
that.
of that, too.
She did.
Yeah.
She did a wonderful
She was
job.
underneath the
The
pavilion.
big
Large
pavilion.
pavilion, yeah.
And then we had.
She wrote me in on some of those things too.
Yeah.
She's good at that.
Well, she's better at getting people to do it than this person was unable to do those little crafts that she was doing there.
Yes. And then Tim Eberling was another volunteer.
He drove people around, didn't he?
He did.
I liked him because
Yes.
whenever his cart was empty, I was on that cart rather
Yeah.
than
You
walk.
got to be. Yeah.
Right.
And then there was.
Yeah, Tim was a councilman too
Yes, he was the
Yes.
constable. Mhm.
at the time we started. But,
Right,
You know,
right.
yeah.
Then we had Colleen
Shadowald.
Shadowald.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, don't ask me to spell it because I don't know
Yeah,
how.
that's. Yeah, forget that one. That's not going to
Colleen.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yes.
And
She
what
was invaluable. She had a lot of. She works with the Blue Tip Festival,
Right.
part of the committee. So she was very knowledgeable on the aspect of the food vendors,
Right.
and also on the community service workers that we had that helped us out. She was really invaluable with all the
Yeah,
information
she was
to
also
us.
like 7 months pregnant at the
Yes.
event too.
Yeah,
So
poor
yeah.
thing. I
was.
felt so bad
Yes.
for her
Yeah.
because it was all 3 days were very, very hot.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And then we had rain in the afternoon on Saturday. wasn't it?
Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had
Yeah.
rain in the afternoon. And I had the General Elijah Wadsworth suit on. And of course it was rented. And they said, if you get a drop of rain on, you own it.
Oh.
So I got out of the rain and before it started. I was afraid it shrink or whatever happened. I don't know what's going to happen. Do you say vendors? How many vendors did we have? I counted about 15 or so, didn't we?
I'm
No,
trying
we
to
had
think.
more than that.
We
We had food vendors. I think we
Oh,
had-
that's right. I
we had-
was thinking just food vendors. About
yeah,
15
food vendors. We had, I think, 10 or 12,
Yes.
roughly, food
Yes.
vendors, and they were on the south end of the park, by the stadium.
South and west, south and east.
Yeah, southeast
Right.
corner of the park. Then we had crafters, and we had probably, what, 50?
I think there were like 51 or something.
51 crafters, and they were
What kind of crafters were they?
they're all handmade items that they made by hand that sold their wares, you know. Anywhere from jewelry to woodworking to carved birds, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tom
Baldwin.
Tom
did
Baldwin
those.
did those.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we had the county treasurer there too. With,
John Burke.
John Burke.
He was there
Yeah.
with Indian.
Right.
John Holmes,
John
Indian
Holmes.
trader.
John Holmes.
Yeah, Indian trader.
He did a wonderful presentation.
Yeah. Very
Then we
good.
had some Indians there too, because Wadsworth was actually not necessarily infested with Indians when they came, but the Indians had been here,
Yeah.
and so we had an actual American Indian, pureblood American Indian woman.
That was
what her-
Pearl.
That was Pearl Groves.
Pearl Groves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she gave all kinds of
Yeah,
programs.
she brought her horse and her teepee.
Brought her home, yep, brought her
and-
teepee, and she stayed there all night.
Yes,
And she
she
spent
did.
the night
She
there,
slept
yeah.
the night,
And
yes.
Both nights.
everyone was trying to convince her not to spend. Well, she wasn't afraid at all.
Oh, no,
No,
no.
no.
But
she
a
didn't.
little secret, a birdie told somebody, and we had police protection down there.
Good, that's good. She was very adamant about staying in her teepee, so. Yeah.
But that is not a good thing to do.
No, it was not.
Not a good thing to do.
No.
But we didn't listen to her. She said, "I'm
Right.
fine." She said, "We didn't listen to her." She had protection.
Good.
Right.
Very good protection.
Yeah, and then we had the 5th Regiment, which was a Revolutionary War
Yep.
reenactment group.
Mm-hmm.
They did a program, every hour or something like that.
Right. They used
Yes.
with the Black Barter rifles, and then they gave demonstrations on uniforms and what they did and how they, lived back then in that era. So.
We had a blacksmith.
We had a
Yeah,
blacksmith.
oh, yes, he was very good. as
We had a
blacksmith.
blacksmith there, and giving demonstrations. We had rug weavers. They were demonstrating how they did.
And these were the types of industries that were prominent when the first people came here in 1814.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
We had no stores where they could go buy
Oh,
anything
no.
and all that.
They had to make their own stuff.
And obviously we weren't able to capitalize on your skill because we didn't have any cars in
Nope.
1814.
It was all horses.
Yeah.
Yeah, the horses,
All horsepower back
all
then.
horsepower.
You
Yeah.
did have a group that came, though, to do the Model T
Yeah.
breakdown.
We had a group which was the Akron Model T
Model
Club,
T group, yes.
and they actually assembled a Model T from
From
start to
scratch.
finish and started it, and they did it within what 10 minutes.
Yeah, it was very quick.
I watched
Yeah.
them do that.
It
Yeah.
was very quick.
They did
Yeah.
a beautiful job of it. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
of course, the Model T was such a simple little thing. All it had was an engine and it had a piece of sheet metal that they called
Right.
the car,
Yeah.
and a steering wheel, and that was about it. And put some wheels on it, you're done. And that's all there was to it, and it worked.
Yeah,
It
they had
worked.
it. They had it all done in about 10 minutes. So yeah.
Now, we had also one full area, and of course I wasn't eligible because it had to be short enough to go underneath this
Yeah.
stick that they had there. But we had one full area for the kids. Now, whose idea was that? I'll bet it was your idea to have something for the kids.
Yes.
Because otherwise, what would you do with it?
Exactly.
Right.
We wanted it to, the whole picnic was to bring the whole community in.
Right.
That was the big idea, and give something to everybody. So we talked about it quite a bit, and we thought we'd do a kid zone. And J.P. Hanna, who is the minister at Grace Truth Church, jumped right in. And he sort of just ran ideas by us, and he planned the whole area, and he just did a wonderful job. Wonderful
Those
job.
kids were there all the time,
yeah.
and they never tired,
No.
never got tired.
Nope.
I was there from, I don't know what time in the morning until the close at the afternoon or evening or night. I swear that the same kids were there, and the same, and never got tired.
They could have been.
The
They were
rest of
enjoying
us,
it.
the rest of us were looking for a bed somewhere.
That's right.
They were
Yeah.
just they kept
Yeah.
on going. The other thing that was a surprise to me that what did we have at the lake? Something going on at the lake, wasn't there?
We had Friday night. We had a band.
Can't think of the name of it.
Buck Naked.
The Buck
Buck
Naked.
Naked Band.
What is it? Yeah, the buck. I knew
Yeah.
it was something I didn't want to say again.
And yeah,
Yes.
and we their country band, and they did a fantastic job. And we had at their last song, we had fireworks at the end.
Yeah,
so.
the fireworks.
Yeah.
And where did we get the fireworks, and what did they cost? So it'd be extremely important for people to know.
Okay.
Well, they
that.
came from, what was the name of that?
Pyrotechnico? Company?
Pyrotechnico.
And where did you set the fireworks off?
They set them off at the spillway at the end of the pond on the sidewalk area there, right beyond the sidewalk. And they cost about $5,000.
Yeah, they were expensive.
Yeah.
Very, very
Expensive.
expensive.
And that was for a 10-minute show.
Yep.
I think we got a little bit more than
Yeah.
what they were going to originally give us.
I think they threw in an
They
extra.
threw in a little
How
extra.
did you, how did you control the crowd for safety?
We had a group called the,
Ohio Response Team.
Special Ohio Special Response Team. And they're a group of volunteers that do security and different events around the state. And we contacted them, and they were happy to help out. So.
Yeah, they do that.
And they did a fantastic
we've had
job
it before.
too.
Yes.
For other functions. But the thing that was frightening to me was the fact that, you know, the place is so big and fireworks are so dangerous that I could just see some little kid wanting to go see where do they light these things. You know, what does a firecracker look like that was lighted?
It was very well roped off, though.
Yeah.
And we had it was very secure.
Very secure, and the fire department was also there. 'Cause
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they have to monitor it. So.
And we also had, didn't we bring in EMS too? Yeah, we had the
EMS and the bicycle police.
They were there.
Bicycle police were there,
Yeah.
that's right, exactly.
If they have bicycles in 50 years.
Pardon me?
If they still have bicycles in 50 years, so yeah.
Right, if they had a bicycle 50 years, right, exactly.
So.
Then, that was on Friday night. On Saturday morning, what, was there a breakfast or something? How did we work that? I didn't come for the breakfast. There wasn't a breakfast, but there was something early in the morning.
Early in the morning, we were there probably about 6 a.m. The events didn't start till 10. But
Yeah.
we had a pretty good windstorm and a tree limb that was kind of hanging in there. We had to call in the fire department to come and cut it down before it fell on somebody. So
Where was it? I didn't see that.
that was right above the blacksmith.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
And
Yeah,
it was
these
hanging there, and so we had got a hold of the fire department. They came out with the bucket truck and cut it down. So, but we were afraid it was going to fall on somebody. But we got that taken care of early in the morning. But
You were there at 6.
6, yeah.
I thought that I was there early. I got there at 9.
No.
Okay.
No.
No, we were there.
You were ready for lunch by that time.
Yeah, really.
Well, what did you do at 6 o'clock then?
Just to get everything ready for vendors coming in, because all of our crafters came in on Saturday morning.
That's right, because we did not have anybody like that on Friday.
No.
Yeah, we had food vendors on Friday. They
And
came
the concert.
in the concert.
That was it.
Saturday, all our crafters came in, so we had to get them organized and in their spots and all that.
How'd you get the food? You say that somebody was able to get your food for you, but how do you get 10 or 15 different food operations to come in?
Well, we were fortunate. One was G&B Concessions, and they actually had probably 6 food trailers that they brought in.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah,
at
that's a big
least.
help.
That was a
Yes.
big help. And then we contacted some other people. We got Word of Mouth Barbecue. They're out of Doylestown. And some other food vendors. We had an ice cream vendor. We had Amish.
Ice cream.
They came in from their Amish, and they actually made homemade ice cream. One vendor. They made it with an old single engine pump that made the ice cream. Yeah.
That hit on
Engine. Hit and miss motor.
hit
Yeah.
and miss.
Yeah.
The pump, 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 pump,
Yep.
pump,
Yep.
pump.
Yep.
I noticed.
Yeah,
that.
single cylinder engine. It's just back back from the
With probably had a flywheel on it to keep it going.
large flywheel in the belt that actually run the churn that they made the ice cream in. So, and that was pretty interesting. So,
Now, the thing that I did not get much of a chance to eat, even though I was there the entire day, and fortunately I didn't get hungry. I don't know why particularly, but I was thirsty. So I thought, well, I'm here now. I'm going to get myself a glass of lemonade. I could not believe they charged $3 for a glass of lemonade.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And I thought to myself, well, this is why food vendors like to come to these places.
that's right.
Yeah.
And I was about 15th in line, 15th
wow.
in line.
Oh, yeah.
There was a big line of people getting the lemonade. The Saturday, we had probably the biggest crowd, didn't we?
right.
And on Saturday afternoon, about 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock or so, did we have a little bit of a rainstorm?
Yeah, it was basically right before the bands were going to start, which was pretty close to 6, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that impressed me so greatly was that these people cannot control that weather. But by heavens, you were able to control what to do with people in that weather. How did you do that? How did you get everyone under some shelter so fast? I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of them
Well,
found their own.
we had help from the school superintendent because we actually had the keys to the stadium that we could use for storm shelter.
Ah, okay, so that the
Right.
that's what you did.
Fortunately, we didn't have to use it because most of the people had left on their own before the storm hit. But fortunately, we had to cancel the bands on Saturday night because of the storm, because it hit right about the time they were going to start playing. And one of them that was waiting it out because they wanted to play, but we had to finally cancel it. So
What did you have to pay for the band then?
the one was a free band. The other one we had they just accepted a small. I think we had to give them $100. So yeah,
I think it was just to cover their costs.
just
for,
cover
like,
the
gas
cost for
and
showing
stuff
up
and
there.
showing up.
But
Where'd they come from?
they were a Wadsworth group. So
Oh,
yeah.
how did you get these people? How did you get the bands? I mean,
Well, a lot of them we knew of word of mouth, like the Get Back, which was a band that plays in the gazebo on Thursday nights when they have the Thursday night concerts in the gazebo downtown. So we went to listen to them one night there, and we contacted them and got them to play. We had a high school group of kids that actually, they were called
Walking in circles.
Walking in Circles, and they were also going to play on Saturday night, and they basically were doing it for free because they just wanted to play, and they were pretty decent, pretty good group. And those are the ones that we had to tell them, no, we can't play, because they still wanted to play, but you know, common sense is you don't put all this expensive equipment out in the rain and get it rained on, because
no,
yeah.
absolutely not.
So we had to finally tell them it's canceled and not, you know.
Now the big thing. How much money did all this cost? What did you have to pay for?
I would say that the probable total cost of this was, I would say, in the $15,000 range.
$15,000, not too terribly bad.
Which, I mean, we had, which the fundraising committee, we had a lot of donations from businesses in town and all that, and basically it all got paid for through fundraising and volunteer
As a matter of fact,
donations.
we have money left over.
Yay.
Right, yeah.
We have some money left over. Who did all of the contract work? I mean, when you say, for instance, you asked the vendors to come in. Did you have to sign papers? Did
Oh
you
yeah,
have-
we had to make up
Contracts.
contracts,
And who did that?
Liability issues.
Me.
And Dennis.
Who did that?
Dennis did.
Yeah, I did. I made up all the contracts, and then we had to get them approved to make sure they were okay through downtown Wadsworth. And
Jack
lot-
Ollum. Jack
Jack
Ollum
Ollum
helped us a lot on that
on
too,
that
to
too,
make sure
so.
everything was the
Tell
way
us
it
who
should
Jack
be.
Ollum is.
Well, I'm not sure what his official
he's
title is.
probably president of downtown Wadsworth.
He's the president of downtown Wadsworth,
Right,
right?
yeah.
Mhm. So he's pretty well in charge of almost all the activities.
Yes.
We have about 14 or 15 activities downtown all the time, and he is in charge of them, and therefore he is out there doing everything, as you well know. The other question that I have on this is that did you have any problem with, or did you have any did you have to have, I should say, any oversight from the Medina County Health Department on some of these things, or did the food vendors already have that when they came in?
Well, the food vendors had to have certificates from the health department, and we had to make sure that they all had updated ones and current.
And who checked those?
I checked them personally.
You
and-
checked them personally?
Yeah, because when they submitted their application, they had to submit a copy of their health certificate. So
And those were turned into
turned to the health department.
And those applications with a copy of their certificates were turned into our city department too.
Okay.
Just so as a, you know, it's
Because you're
all
not allowed
okay.
you're not allowed to distribute food unless you have
Yeah,
Correct.
permit there, yeah.
Right.
the health department's
Right.
permission. When did you start working on it? I mean, you surely didn't start working on it Friday night.
No, we started a year and a half before the event, so.
And tell us about how that worked. I mean, did you try to do it all yourselves? Did you get people to help you?
Oh yeah, we had plenty of help.
Yeah, we
so.
Did you have meetings?
We had meetings. At the beginning, we had meetings about once a month.
Where did you have them?
Mostly at our house. So.
At your house?
Yeah.
And where do you live?
On 243 Stratford Avenue.
Okay.
In Wadsworth, yeah.
So you had meetings at your house, and
Right.
then tell us the progression of those meetings. First of all, you probably had some meetings that, oh, what are we going to do, and how are we going to do it, and so forth. Then did you assign responsibilities to various people? And,
right, yeah. First we decided what we were going to do.
Okay.
And then we'd have different volunteers that would handle each aspect of trying to get volunteers or trying to find people or trying to basically figure out what we're going to do and where we're going to do it at.
Who picked the dates?
We did.
We picked the
We picked the
dates,
dates.
yeah. We tried to get it to where it wouldn't interfere with Blue Tip, because Blue Tip's in June, so we did this in July.
What were the dates? I've forgotten. 9th, 10th, 11th, or something like that?
They were the 23rd, 4th, and 5th.
I think so.
Oh, 23rd, 4th, and
They
5th.
were
Yeah.
later.
Of July. Yeah.
Something else was 9th, 10th, and 11th.
Yeah.
I forgot what it was now, but
Yeah.
well, did you have to meet with the two of you? Did you have to meet then with the overall planning committee?
Right. We attended monthly meetings with the entire planning committee. So at the beginning, up until our event, we had monthly meetings, and then after that, they were. I think it was probably ours was toward the end, and after that, they kind of discontinued the meetings after that. But we were meeting probably a year and a half, in meetings before the event even started. So.
Right.
Yeah.
The other question that comes up almost automatically, what problems did you encounter that you weren't expecting?
Well, one was rain.
Rain, yeah.
Rain,
was an
because
issue.
it was an outdoor event. So,
Right.
of course, it is Ohio, so you can
Yeah.
always count on it raining. Basically, we didn't have a whole lot of problems. We had a problem with a few vendors that we had one particular one that showed up and decided he didn't want to do this and decided he was just going to leave. So, and he was one of our kettle corn vendors.
He was what?
He was a kettle corn. He was going to do demonstrating on how they do kettle corn and all that. And
Can you tell us what kettle corn is? Because in 2064, but they may not have heard the term.
kettle corn is like a caramelized popcorn, so and it's very good. So I'd be surprised if they didn't have it in 50 years, but
Yeah, it's usually cooked in
very popular. Yeah,
usually cooked in a big kettle
big cast iron kettle and
with a fire underneath it.
and they pop it and then.
Why did he want to leave?
I don't know. We had a hard time getting him to commit to begin with, and when he showed up, he didn't have an extension cord long enough to reach there. And right in his contract, we told we don't supply cords. And I said, well, you can have two choices. You can go up to Walmart and buy an extension cord, or you can deal with it, And I guess he just decided he would want to do it. So.
Where was he from?
I don't remember where he was from.
I'm trying to remember too because I just kind of
Yeah.
discarded it.
Yeah.
He wasn't from Wadsworth, I will tell you that.
Yeah,
I know
right,
that.
no.
Now, at the time that the picnic was going on, Wadsworth did not permit any alcohol.
Correct.
Right.
I think they're thinking about permitting alcohol in some events now, but at that time. Did anyone bring any alcohol on the grounds that you know of?
Not that we
Not
know
that
of.
we know of.
No.
No.
So therefore, you probably did not have anyone who was drunk that you
Oh,
had to
no.
work
No,
with.
no.
No,
This was booked as a family event.
Right.
and-
Right.
Yeah.
And what about we did have the police and the fire and also for the EMS there for the fireworks. But what about, did you have to have policemen on duty as well?
Yeah, I think they assigned like 2 like bicycle cops, to patrol the area during
For the 3
during the
days
day.
that we
Three
did
days.
this.
And then we had the Ohio Special Response Team that actually also patrolled the 3
Mhm.
days. Plus, they spent
They
the
spent
night
the
on
night.
Saturday night too, so they were there all night.
Right.
So
Now, what happened Sunday?
Sunday was about like Saturday.
like
We were
Saturday.
there at 6 a.m. again, getting ready. A lot of the crafters kind of bowed out and didn't show up for Sunday because of a rain on Saturday.
Right.
And even though they paid for the 2-day event, about half of them didn't show up for Sunday. So
When you say they paid for the 2-day event, how much did they have to pay?
it was $50 for a 10 by 10 spot and $75 for a 10 by 20 spot. So
$50?
$50, yeah.
Mhm.
So, I
the
mean,
2
they paid for
days.
both days, and if I was a vendor, I would have, since I paid for it, I would have still been there, because people still came.
If they had 17 cups of lemonade,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they paid for it right then.
Exactly.
Yeah, we had some complaints because the food and the crafters were too far apart in the park, and they were complaining because people weren't coming back and forth and visiting them or visiting the food. So we had a shuttle service that we planned, a van, to do some off-site parking for the weekend, but evidently we didn't need it because people found a place to park in the park, So we ended up using the shuttle service on Sunday just to shuttle people back and forth between the crafters and the food vendors. So
And that was for,
yeah, so we kind of changed the game plan there, and it worked out pretty well then. So.
if you were going to do something different, what would you have done?
Well, I mean, we had everything spread out in the park. Maybe we would have moved everything a little closer, and so everything was together. But I think it worked out very well. I don't think we had a well of a turnout that we thought we would have had from the people coming. And I think the weather played a lot of that in the factor too. So yeah.
That's true. And it was a very, very hot day.
Yeah.
It was.
Very hot.
Very hot, and then we had the rain. So, I mean, the kids' land, I mean, it didn't matter with them because
Not
that
at all.
place was packed both days, and so it didn't matter to them whether it was hot, rainy, or wet. So
How many people do you think actually came? Of course, it's hard to tell because
very
hard to
hard.
tell
Big.
because they're
Yeah.
in and out all day, and it's a big park. So I would have no idea, really, tell you the truth. So
I'd be willing to wager there were 10,000 people though,
yeah, there probably was.
Probably,
Yeah.
because if you look at from where of course I walk back and forth. However, one of the things that I try to do anytime that there's a great big crowd is to estimate how many people are standing around or whatever. And where all of the activities were, that is the craftspeople and so forth and so on, that was pretty well solidly oriented with adult people. And at one point I counted an area of about 100 square feet, and then I multiplied that by an estimate of how much area we were talking about, and there were over 2,000 people right there at that point, and they came and went and so forth.
Right.
Now, this is going to be one of those questions that's going to say, how dare you ask that question? Which one of the two of you had to do the most work?
Oh, Dennis by far. Dennis by far, yeah.
Oh, you're going to admit that, right?
Oh, I will admit it, yep. Yes. He was more of the brain person, I think, on this one. I just kind of followed this.
But knowing Dennis, my guess is that not too many people got around you. Is that right?
That's true, yeah.
That's
So,
true.
yeah.
That is true.
I've been a business owner for 30 years and dealt with people a lot.
So you know how
Yeah.
to make people say yes if they have to say
Right.
yes, and if
Right.
you have to say no to them, you know how to say no to them.
Right, that's right. So,
And I can imagine someone coming in and say, well, you know, you tuned my car up the other day, and now the air in my one tire is low, and it's your fault.
yeah. I get that a lot.
Yes.
And you know how
We
to
do.
handle those kinds of people.
That's right, yeah.
One of the things that I was impressed with is that there seemed to be an aura of respect throughout the whole thing. At one point, I said, I asked a question, said, well, we'll have to ask Dennis. We'll have to ask Dennis. Well, I knew right then that Dennis is in charge.
Yes.
There was no question about that, and you have to have someone. Someone has to be in charge.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You can't have a committee doing this thing.
No,
No.
You have to have someone in charge. Did you have any thoughts about having anything on the water, such as canoes or kayaks or
Yeah, we thought about having paddle boats, maybe.
paddle boats
Yeah.
and things like that?
But,
what made you change your mind about putting them on?
Well, basically it was liability.
That's,
Yeah, insurance.
Let's
you know.
talk about the liability just for a second, because you mentioned liability 2 or 3 times so far. Liability, obviously, anybody can sue for anything, you know,
Right.
as you well know. However, there are certain things for which you are liable, and you're liable for the health, safety, and welfare of all the people in the city of Wadsworth when you have a City of
Right.
Wadsworth function. What kind of liabilities did you have to buy or pay for that might have surprised you? I can think of one.
Well, I don't think we had to pay for any insurance because we were actually under downtown Wadsworth liability insurance.
Well, I mean, someone had to pay for it. No, I mean,
Right.
you didn't have to pay for it.
We
but
didn't pay for it,
But
yeah.
somebody had to pay for some liability.
Yeah.
And the liability, the surprise that I had was that we were liable for anything. Well, I shouldn't say we. Somebody was liable for anything. Say, for instance, that you got food poisoning. Liable.
Right.
And ain't your fault.
No.
No.
It's your fault. Do you have any idea how much liability costs on that? I know that it's not. I know it's not cheap.
Right. Well, Jack kind of handled all that, and so I have no idea. But they kind of just added it on as a rider to their policy,
Right.
so it was probably less expensive than if we would have had to go out and buy it outright. So, yeah.
I know I was mayor for 4 years,
Yeah.
and any time that we did anything that had even one person, we had to call the insurance company to put on a codicil for liability. And I'll swear that the cheapest was $1,000 for a minute. You know, well, that's an exaggeration, but it's very, very expensive.
Yeah, very
For
expensive.
very little. For 3 days, I can't imagine what it would be like.
Oh, yeah.
So it would be quite a bit. So liability would be a big thing, and I'm sure in 2064 that's not going to change. It's probably going to get worse. you
Right,
know,
it's be more expensive.
because many years ago there was almost no need for liability because people took care of themselves. But now we are in a litigious society where people sue for everything. So we didn't do anything on the water because of liability.
Right.
But did we stop any other kinds of things also for liability? I give you an example. Someone came up to me and she said, "Where are the bow and arrows that they used to shoot their deer with many, many years ago?" And I gave some kind of a silly answer. I said, "Well, I think that they ran out of bows or something like that." You know, it was a kid who came up and
Right.
wanted to know that. Were there any other kinds of activities that you did not have simply because of liability?
I don't think there was.
I don't think so. No, I think that was the main one, was the water.
Did we have any liability with those people who were reenacting with the gunshots? I mean, there were no ammunition, was there?
No, they were just shooting black powder. There's no
No.
ammunition. So
We didn't have any. We didn't have any liability
no,
with that.
we had to get it okayed through the police department because
Shooting a
guns
gun.
in the
Right.
park. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, shooting a gun in the city limits.
City
City
limits,
limits,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So
But I think that, as a matter of fact, even if you have a stage play at the high school, if they have a cap gun, well,
Right.
a cap gun, but we have to get the permission
Right.
Right.
for that. And there was no problem with that, I'm sure.
No,
no,
no, there's no
nothing
problem.
at all, because that's just a portrayal of something.
Right.
What did anyone do anything historically on the picnic that they had in 1874? See, they did not have one in 1864
Right.
because the Civil War was going on. So they had their first one that they had, the first recognizable event they had was in 1864 or 1874, which would have been the 60th anniversary of the founding of Wadsworth.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a big picnic they had at the cemetery, and they told what kind of pies they brought and who brought them and how high they were and where they got their apples. And I mean, there were so few people around at that time. Did anyone in your committee do any research on the picnics that we had? We had one in 2000, I mean one in 1874. We had in the 100th anniversary was the Second World War. The First World War was going on, so they didn't have much of a one there. But in the 150th anniversary, we had a big one. Did anyone do any research on those?
Oh, Roger Havens, who he was also on the historical committee, so
Right.
he did a lot of research on mainly the trying to find old pictures and the people of the early years of Wadsworth and what was going on. But I don't think anybody did any research on the picnics or anything that we had back then.
Yeah.
So
Did anyone bring up the idea of having the same kind of food, for instance?
No.
For instance,
we
the
thought about that at the beginning, but it's
too much.
it was way too much.
Yeah.
You know,
See,
it was
the,
easier to have food vendors just bring.
In 1874, they had an entire pig or hog or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And they started early in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and they roasted it, and then people ate it at noon, and
Right.
you know, that kind of thing. And then people brought their specialties in, and they identified what those specialties were. And we don't have that, you know. I can't think of any of them right now, but I'll make this one up as rhubarb something or another, which we don't even talk about anymore. But the fact is that you did talk about it at one time, but you didn't do anything because of much too involved.
Right. It's just it was too many people that you would try to have to feed, and
Right.
you know, you would have had to roasted a lot of hogs.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
But they were able to do that. I think that they said that there were about 2,000 people,
Wow.
and that was all.
Right.
Well, for 2,000 people, I mean, some housewives could probably handle that, maybe.
Right.
But you get a 10,000 or
Yeah.
even more over a period of 3 or 4 days. And what happened then? When did you button this thing down on Sunday afternoon, or Sunday rather?
Sunday we buttoned it down about 4 o'clock. We had a large birthday bash. We had cakes and ice cream to feed everybody that was there, and everybody sang "Happy Birthday" to Wadsworth. So
I love it.
It was
Yeah.
fun.
Yep, that's right.
It was a good ending.
Yeah,
I had it. We had it underneath the big pavilion.
large pavilion.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the people who came up to me afterwards said, "Give me her name, her maiden name, and wanted to know if I knew anything about the family." We were able to go back almost 150 years
Wow.
with her family,
Yeah.
and she did not realize that they had been here that long. They came directly from Germany, and actually I knew her father, her grandfather, and great-grandfather.
Oh my goodness.
She did not know them, but I encouraged her then to write all of this down so that the people in 2064 will know that this family came there. Now, why is that important? Her father was killed. The family moved away. There is no one left in Wadsworth, so they are elsewhere. But if you want to know a family that started way back 150 years ago and came up to the present day, to 2014 or 2015, that's going to be in, you know, in our historical
Right.
in our historical house. We have a few more minutes left, and you say that you didn't do nearly as much as Dennis did, but what kinds of things did you do, and what kind of things did Dennis do? Now, we know that he signed papers and He was the bouncer, and
Yeah.
no one messed with him. But what did you do?
I mostly handled the crafters. I researched with Diane Allum. She does a lot of the events downtown, like the Urban Craft, and she gets those types of vendors and crafters. So I picked her brain, and she gave me a list. So then I had to create a database with everybody's name in it, and I would send them an email inviting them to take part in our event. So those were a lot, a lot of names. So then I just kind of managed them, and when they were on board, I would have them sign a contract. I'd mail them a contract or email it, and they would get it back to me. And then, of course, with their checks for payment for their booths. And then I would turn that in. I turned all that into Jack Allum for him to look over and make sure everything was good with that. Then we assigned them a spot, and that was their spot for the whole time that they were there. Any contracts of any type I would take and have turn those in to anybody. Special permits I turned in to the city.
In other words, you did
A lot of paperwork.
a lot of footwork and a lot of secretarial work.
Right.
And Dennis told you what to do.
Yes. He kept me on track, which that's hard to do sometimes. So.
How did you manage to do this with owning a business? And you have a business that doesn't stop at 5 o'clock, because if you're working on a car, that car needs to be finished, because that person is going to leave 6 o'clock the following morning, but didn't bring it in to you until the last minute.
Right. Of course.
Nothing has changed. Nothing will change.
No.
So how did you manage to do all of this with running a business?
Well, I have a lot of help because my son works with me, and he's very capable of handling that part of it. So if I had to take off, he can actually manage it, But it was, I had a lot of, it was a lot of work, and with doing both, I was working late nights, on this part of it. So, mostly in the evenings. So it was like work all day and then work all night. So.
Now, what did you do with your time after this is all over with?
Well, we took a vacation.
We did.
And then, this year I don't know what to do because I have so much free time.
Well, I'm sure you'll find something to do.
Oh, yeah.
After a person has done something like this, when you say work night and day, and then abruptly it stops. But what were some of the things that you had to do even after the picnic was over to clean up the mess, as it were? I mean, you didn't have to clean up the paper plates in the park, I don't mean that, but there were a lot of things administratively that you had to do. What did you have to do afterwards? Or was it somebody else did that for you?
Well,
There was a wrap-up meeting.
Yeah, we had a wrap-up meeting on what we did and what we did and what could have changed and what we did wrong and all that.
And what were some of the things that they would have changed?
There wasn't a whole lot. I mean, one was because we had a lot of complaints from the food vendors and the crafters because they were so far apart.
But they complained all of the time.
Yes,
But they
do.
complained all the time.
Yes,
yeah.
they do.
They
And I
complained
got warned because I also talked with the lady that runs the Mum Fest. Okay. And she gave me a lot of ideas too about how to handle crafters and all that. She warned me that they're a different breed of people. And
They are.
yeah, and don't take any crap from them. So
Yep.
that's what you told
Basically.
me. And basically,
Well,
if
she would
there's
have
a lot
had
of
to tell you that.
if there's a lot of people and it's a nice day, they're happy and you're a hero. And if it's a bad day and it's raining, then you're the goat. So yeah, and they're going to blame you for the weather. So, but yeah, she gave me a lot of tips and all that. And I said something to her about, well, this is just a one-year event, because this was the 23rd year for the Barberton Mum Fest. And she goes, the Mum Fest was supposed to be a one-year event.
Yep.
23 years later, she's still doing it. Yeah.
Well, we will not have another 200th anniversary.
No.
That's
So,
a one-year event.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
That's one. But we are the only place around here that went the entire year. Well, almost 9 full months
Right.
of 2014. We went 9 full months to celebrate, and almost all of the other communities to celebrate their 200th anniversary. Probably a week, or sometimes just an afternoon or a weekend or something like that. We went the entire 9 months. we let people know that we were proud that
Yes.
Wadsworth is 200 years old.
Right.
And I'm sure that in 2064 that the people there are going to do the same identical thing. They're going to be very proud that, that Wadsworth has been here for 250 years. In the meantime, we have a couple minutes left now, and if you were going to do this over again, Dennis and Judy, what would you have done differently?
Well, probably not a whole lot. I mean, we've never done this before, okay? It was the first time that we've actually ever planned an event this big.
Yeah.
And we've done smaller events before, but nothing this big.
What kind of events did you do before? That's interesting. Maybe
Well, we did a lot of scout events. Like
Oh.
we would do, for the Girl Scouts, we would do a Haunted Woods event for an evening every year in October around Halloween. And we did that for probably 12 years.
least.
You know,
So maybe one of the
every year.
things that people in 2064 ought to think of is get someone with a little bit of experience.
Right.
Yes,
right, yeah.
definitely.
That's
Yeah.
a good point
Definitely.
right there.
Yeah.
And what about you? What would you have done differently, Judy?
I might have shortened it just a little bit, maybe.
You what?
Maybe shortened the, instead of a whole weekend, maybe a 2-day event.
Oh, really?
Maybe. Yeah, it was a lot of time. It was, it was a lot of work, but really not much difference, I think. All in all, I think it turned out really great,
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Considering the rain and
we had-
everything,
yeah, we
I
had very
think-
little problems,
yeah.
and besides the rain, you know.
Yeah.
But,
And I think we had just the right amount of people on our core committee, because sometimes if you get too many people, then
Right.
there's just too many ideas. And I think the 5 that we had was the right amount. We
Right,
really
yeah.
gelled well
Yeah.
and bounced ideas off of each other. And yeah, I think that was.
Well, we have come to the end of the hour, and we want to thank you for not only having this huge event, and it satisfied so many people, and people are still talking about it. This is, well, not quite a year, well, about 10 months
Almost a
ago.
year.
Yeah, almost a year now. People are still talking about it, and on a personal basis, it is a memory that I will never forget. I'm 84 years old, and it's the first time that I spent 3 days at a picnic. And I enjoyed every single minute of it. So we want to thank you profusely for having done that, and thank you for giving the good advice to the people of 2064.
You're very welcome.
Both of you did a phenomenal job, and you deserve a lot of credit.
Thank you.